The incentives that quietly control behavior. You rarely notice them. They don't issue commands or demand obedience, yet they shape decisions every single day, guiding behavior more reliably than laws, morals, or intentions ever could. Incentives don't argue with you. They wait and you move. Today, incentives are the invisible architecture behind modern life. They determine what gets built, what gets ignored, and what survives. To understand why this matters now, we have to look beyond surface choices and into the systems quietly rewarding some behaviors while punishing others. Because once incentives are set, outcomes become predictable. For most of history, behavior was shaped by authority. Rules were enforced by force, tradition, or hierarchy. But systems evolved. Power learned to operate indirectly. Instead of commanding action, it began rewarding compliance. Instead of punishing disobedience, it removed opportunity. People still felt free, but their options narrowed. The reveal begins with modern systems replacing intention with incentive alignment. Platforms reward engagement, not truth. Markets reward efficiency, not resilience. Algorithms reward predictability, not understanding. No one tells you what to do. You simply learn what works. Over time, behavior adapts. Creators chase metrics. Workers optimize for performance reviews. Investors follow yield signals without asking why they exist. Each individual choice feels rational. Together, they form patterns that no one explicitly designed, yet everyone participates in. This is the power of incentives. They don't require agreement. They don't demand belief. They shape outcomes by making certain behaviors easier, safer, or more profitable than others. And once enough people respond, the system appears to move on its own. What unsettling is not that incentives influence behavior. It's that most of the time, no one is consciously choosing which incentives matter most. And when incentives quietly take control, intention becomes optional, but consequences do not. As incentive-driven systems expanded, their influence deepened in ways that felt natural, even inevitable. People rarely questioned why certain actions felt rewarded, while others quietly disappeared. The feedback loops were subtle. A post gained visibility. A strategy gained yield. A behavior gained approval. Over time, repetition replaced reflection. The conflict emerged when outcomes began diverging from stated values. Systems claimed to reward quality, yet incentivized speed. They claimed to promote fairness, yet favored scale. They claimed to encourage innovation, yet punished deviation from proven patterns. The gap between intention and result widened, not through malice, but through design. Incentives proved more powerful than rules. A policy could say one thing, but if the reward structure said another, behavior followed the reward every time. People adapted without protest. They didn't need to be convinced. They needed to be compensated. What felt like choice was often just optimization. As automation increased, incentives became even more precise. Algorithms measured engagement down to milliseconds. Markets adjusted rewards in real time. Performance metrics updated continuously. The systems no longer waited for annual reviews or long-term outcomes. They trained behavior constantly, like a silent tutor correcting every move. This created a strange emotional tension. Individuals felt responsible for their choices, yet sensed they were being guided. Success felt earned, but also oddly constrained. Failure felt personal, yet systematically predictable. The systems never explained themselves. They simply responded. Communities began noticing the pattern. When incentives changed, culture shifted overnight. Behaviors once celebrated vanished. New norms appeared without debate. No one voted. No announcement was made. The system spoke through rewards, and everyone listened. The deeper problem was not manipulation. It was invisibility. Incentives worked best when they were least discussed. Once noticed, they could be questioned. Unseen, they felt like reality itself. And as more of life moved into systems governed by invisible rewards, a quiet realization took hold. If incentives define behavior, then whoever designs them holds more power than those who enforce rules. The question was no longer why people acted the way they did. It was who decided what actions were worth rewarding in the first place. As the consequences of incentive design accumulated, the effects became impossible to ignore. Systems began optimizing themselves toward outcomes no one publicly endorsed, yet no one stopped. Efficiency increased, engagement soared, but resilience weakened, diversity narrowed. Long-term thinking faded beneath short-term reward cycles. The conflict intensified when incentives started reshaping identity itself. People no longer just acted differently. They began thinking differently. Choices were filtered through expected rewards before values could intervene. Curiosity gave way to performance. Integrity bent toward optimization. The question shifted from organizations felt trapped by their own systems. Changing incentives risked collapse. Remove the reward and participation vanished. Adjusted poorly, and unintended behavior exploded. Leaders discovered that once incentives trained behavior at scale, reversing course was harder than designing the system in the first place. In digital environments, this effect multiplied. Algorithms reinforced what already performed well, starving alternatives of visibility. Markets rewarded leverage over caution. Governance systems incentivized short-term gains over collective health. Each mechanism made sense in isolation. Together, they produced fragility disguised as success. Emotionally, tension grew beneath the surface. People sensed that something was off, yet struggled to articulate it. Burnout increased. Cynicism replaced purpose. Systems kept functioning, but meaning drained away. The rewards remained, but fulfillment didn't follow. Attempts to fix the problem often missed the point. More rules were added, more oversight introduced, but behavior barely changed. Incentives remained intact, quietly overriding every new directive. The system listened only to rewards, not intentions. The build-up reached a critical realization. Incentives do not just guide behavior. They shape reality by determining which actions survive long enough to be repeated. Over time, they decide what becomes normal, what becomes rare, and what disappears entirely. When incentives run unchecked, they don't create evil outcomes. They create optimized ones, regardless of whether those outcomes are worth living with. The turning point came when people finally stopped blaming individuals and started examining the systems shaping them. The behaviors weren't the problem. They were the signal. Incentives have been doing exactly what they were designed to do, even if no one liked the result. The climax revealed a sobering truth. Incentives are never neutral. They encode priorities. They reward certain futures while quietly starving others. And once embedded into systems at scale, they shape reality more powerfully than intention, culture, or leadership ever could. Out of this realization, a different approach began to emerge. Instead of asking people to behave better, designers began asking better questions. What does this system reward over time? What behavior does it normalize under pressure? What outcomes become inevitable if nothing changes? Responsibility shifted upstream, from participants to architects. The resolution reframed power itself. Real control no longer belonged to those who enforced rules or issued commands. It belonged to those who shaped incentives, often invisibly, often unintentionally. Changing outcomes required changing rewards, not rhetoric. This didn't make the world simpler. It made it more honest. Every system revealed its values through what it paid for, promoted, or protected. And once people learned to read incentives clearly, they stopped arguing about behavior and started redesigning environments instead. The future will not be decided by what people say they want. It will be decided by what systems quietly reward. Subscribe to join the journey.